We're pivoting. So, hello everyone. My name is Dana, and I'm going to talk about sharks today. So specifically, the title is Sharks Need Better PR, a case against mammalian bias, and why they deserve a better reputation, and the consequences of said bad reputation. So a little bit about me. Back in 2010, little David Dana there, during the Great Recession, was trying to find a job and was working at a comfort shoe store at the Mall of America, and a buddy of mine said, "Hey, there's this place that pays $10 an hour. Like, shut up, get me this job." And it was, at the time, Underwater Adventures at the Mall of America, which is now Sea Life, and that's me with a snake. And what I didn't realize was this job that I took because I needed a job in the Great Recession turned out to be set me on a path to go back to school, to become an educator, to become a scuba diver. I have a full sleeve tattoo with sea creatures and sharks, as well as a lifelong water baby. So in 2024, what you're looking at is I ditched my family on Christmas Eve to go scuba diving off the Yucatan Peninsula with these beautiful pregnant bull sharks. Look at these mamas. Look how beautiful they are. Yeah, I want to hang out with them. So they're about 6-7 feet and just real fucking cool. So just to take a step back about what exactly these guys are, sharks are, let's take a step back, kind of take it back to third grade, that sharks are in fact fish, and we are mammals. So now I'm going to talk fast at you. So again, to recap, mammals, us, we aspirate or breathe with lungs. They do so with gills. We don't have scales. They do. Our skeletal structure is made out of bone. There's this cartilage, so I want you to grab your nose, see where it can wiggle, and there's that part that's a little bit tougher at the top. That is also all cartilage, so imagine their skeleton, but much firmer version than that. We have hair, mammary glands, and a neocortex part of the brain. They do not. All mammals are warm-blooded. Most sharks are not. Every living mammal, even the water-dwelling ones, have an ancestor that lived on land, fun fact, but sharks are all aquatic. So now that we're coming back from third grade, I'm going to give you a vocabulary lesson. Some of the words we're going to use today are charismatic megafauna. So what that term, it was first used in 1985. What that is to refer to as, quote, popular, attractive, and well-known animals commonly used by conservation groups to generate public funding for conservation efforts, aka the popular kids. If something has ever been made into a stuffy, and I did see a friend with a stuffy here today if they want to show it. It's okay. If it's been made into a stuffy, it's probably a charismatic megafauna. Yes, like this beautiful example right here, like a wolf is a perfect example. These tend to be large and they tend to be mammals, including our beautiful friend the wolf there, and lots of other examples, including dolphins and orcas. But anywho, so you may be saying, "Hey Dana, I don't know if you know this, but there's a shark up there in your example of charismatic megafauna, and I have 100% have seen and or bought those stuffies at IKEA that have been there forever, so what are you talking about?" Okay, and fair point. So now we get to the argument of this, something called mammalian bias, which is a tendency in scientific research to focus disproportionately on mammals that are larger and more charismatic. Remember that previous slide? We're smart. While neglecting others, particularly those of smaller or lesser known species. So as a result, this bias can, quote, lead to incomplete understanding of biodiversity and conservation needs, since many of these non-mammalian, in fact, invertebrate folks, species can receive very little attention and funding despite their ecological importance. So now we're actually going to step out of the water for a hot second, and I'm going to give you an example, the poster child of this bias. Nope, that is not the slide I want. There we go. So here we go. The slide, or excuse me, so who we're going to talk about now is the golden toad, who you may or may not have heard about. We're going to get to that. So the golden toad, or excuse me, is a species that was in Costa Rica that had a very small, or excuse me, a very small area that it habitated of as small as 1 square mile. And I did the math. From where you are sitting right now, about 1 square mile will get you to both of the roads, and it'll get you to the door of Quang. That's the entire species lived in this one valley of that size. And the entire species disappeared in 1 year. In 1987, there were 1,500 individuals that were notated and found. In the next year, there were 10. The year after, there was 1 little dude. And then after that, there had been none been seen in the wild and were marked officially extinct starting in 2004. And they actually do have some at the Henry Zoo in Nebraska. I highly recommend. It's freaking amazing. Now you know the history of that. But that being said, we're gonna go back. Why this guy is a great example. We're just going all over the place. So why I'm gonna use this guy as an example is what we're looking at right here is a particular figure from a paper that is called Taxonomic Bias Towards the Charismatic and Easy to Find Mammals Shaped Knowledge of Parasites. So essentially what this paper that was published in 2025 is a metadata paper. It focuses more on, hey, we're talking about mammals, what about their parasites? But it gives a lot of examples of other mammalian bias papers and ideas, including body size. Bigger vertebrates are more likely to be studied. Remember the golden toad. Cute little SOB. The number of zoos and aquaria. Vertebrates found in more zoos and aquaria tend to be more studied. Only very few of them. Just one zoo in North America, and there's one in Europe that has the golden toad. We don't see it, we don't know about it. How are we supposed to care about it, much less do any research on it? Range size and habitat. Vertebrates that live in more habitats or in wider area are more likely to be studied if they're easy to find. Remember that tiny area? Threat status. Vertebrates are actually at lower risk of extinction and are more studied. So we have these blinders on for ones that are actually more we're going to skip the description here because that's not interesting, as well as the human density. The closer that they are to humans, aka easier to study, the more likely they are to be studied as well. So you may be going, all right, so what? The fact of the matter is that we as mammals, we love to look at ourselves. And it's all about us and our ego. We are much more likely to anthropomorphize or ascribe human characteristics, to things that are not human when we see ourselves in that. It's kind of hard to see yourself, much less emotionally attach to yourself, to something that doesn't have a spine, doesn't have eyes, doesn't have a brain, doesn't have a spinal column. So the more likely we care about something, the more likely we are to put funding into it, the more likely to put protection and interest into it. So now we're going to go back to sharks. And I want you to shout it out, what are some words that come to mind when you think of sharks? First thing when you heard, this is the Jaws is the correct answer! Gross. Jaws is the correct answer. So, I want you to go back to that moment. Actually, out of curiosity, is there anyone here who has not seen Jaws? Okay, so, as you can see by my shirt, so a little bit of context. This is a clip from Jaws, and I want you to think of it, again, that anthropomorphize, that mammalian bias of when we see ourselves in these critters that we're interested in. Again, the charismatic megafauna versus the ones that we do not see ourselves in. So to set up this particular clip, this very craggy looking chap is character Quint. They are hunting the shark Jaws, and he is recounting a shark attack that happened in World War II, the USS Indianapolis. So.
go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then... oh, then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming.
Well, I will stop it right there. Thank you. All right. So here's a great example of that mammalian bias. Lifeless eyes, dead eyes. Sharks are an apex predator. No one's describing a dolphin like that. Why not? And also their eyes our last species eyes do roll back and go white because they're sticking out their jaws because they can have a bit bigger bite, which is really freaking cool. So here is a great example of that. And Jaws has been one of the worst things to happen to shark. And I want to say this as someone who loves this movie. This is objectively one of the best movies that has ever been done. It's a near perfect movie, and it is crap for sharks. Repeat after me, people. Jaws is a monster movie. Let that sink into your heart. It is a monster movie. This is not actually real. Godzilla is not a representation of cute reptiles, nor is Jaws a representation of sharks. Out of curiosity, when you hear about sharks, what may be the other thing that is jumping into your mind? Shark Week! I'm so glad this prompting actually worked out. I was not sure how it was going to go. Shark Week is the other answer I was hoping to get. So that started in 1998. It is, quote, the longest running cable event, whatever that means. And the bastard child of then Shark Fest, which apparently lasts a whole month. That Disney and National Geographic is getting on top, was going off on as well. So you may be going, hey, Dana, I'm just trying to have a taste of beer, eat some delicious banh mi. All right, sharks, like PR. Like, so what? People like what they like. They've got their stuffies. What's wrong with liking a panda or dolphins? But there are some real life consequences because of this bad PR. And I'm going to pick on Shark Week in particular. So those two programs are example of edutainment, meaning that they're focused much more on the entertainment, not necessarily the education. So I'm going to give a couple of examples here where they may actually be hurting shark numbers and shark conservation. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Good, my laptop did not poop out the notes on me because I was going to start talking at you real fast. All right, here we go. So here are a couple of points out of 202 episodes that were examined. Just 6 contained any actionable tips. Although many shows did focus on scientific research, they often relied on non-scientific hosts to answer a question that has long been answered. Many of these methods border on wildlife harassment. Repeat hosts can say things that are just demonstrably false. Just straight up, they're wrong. Many shows that are in South of Africa, Bahamas, and Mexico feature a handful of non-white experts that are on the other side of the world. Of the hosts and experts featured in more than 10 episodes, 100% were white men. The hosts that featured more than 5 episodes, there were more men who are non-scientists named Mike than there were any women. Literally any woman, much less women of color or women in the field. 3 of the most commonly featured species, so you probably know your tiger shark, your bull shark, and your white shark, are not actually under conservation concern. They're doing fine, whereas the most critically endangered have never been featured at all. And then moving on to the titles and the scary narration and the scary music, where the titles can be things like Sharkpocalypse, Megalodon, Megalodon, new evidence. It's not alive. It's been dead for 2 million years. It's not around. Stop pretending like it is. Voodoo sharks, and then my personal favorite, cocaine sharks. For context, there were brigs of cocaine found off of Brazil, and tiger sharks or some other species were nibbling on it, and tiger sharks like to eat everything, so there was some cocaine found in their system. And so Discovery Channel went like, oh my God, the sharks are eating cocaine now. What's gonna happen? It's sharks on cocaine. Dude, it's fine. It's fine. All right, so having listened to me and about cocaine sharks, we're just going around here. Here are a handful of action items that I would like you to do or take away. Number one, be aware of your mammalian bias. I do want you to go hang out and look at your tigers when you're over at the zoo. Tigers are cool, but don't pass by the amphibians. Don't walk by that golden toad. I do want you to read that plaque and let your inner kid just be really happy at looking at all the critters, and don't just walk by, again, that really cool golden toad that you may not know about. I want you to donate research and protecting about the uncool kids, us little nerdy species that are, invertebrates that are not the ones that everyone's talking about. And lastly, when you are watching Shark Week, because here's the thing, I love Shark Week. It doesn't love sharks back, but doesn't mean it's going to stop me from watching it, because dude, I want to talk about sharks and I want to read about sharks. So, support programs with diverse experts. Specifically, I want to shout out minorities in shark science. So, MISS, that is Women of Color in Shark Sciences. Follow them on Instagram. They are so freaking great. Go to their day camp in Florida. I know Florida sucks, but you should follow them and go there anyway. It's really cool. Support programs with diverse shark species. You heard of the lollipop shark? You heard of the lantern shark? Go learn about that. No, go ask me. I'm going to talk to you about for 15 minutes about these really cool sharks. And please avoid programs regarding shark attacks. You are more likely to die from a vending machine crushing you than you are from sharks. We dress up as their food when we go surfing and we go boogie boarding, and they still don't want to eat us. It's a fucking myth. You should still be safe and respect nature, because nature could kick your ass, and also, you're fine. Be a savvy and critical observer and media. When you hear that spooky voice and that dramatic music, think about what emotions that they might be trying to go after. And then lastly, please support programs with strong conservation themes and messages, not just the edutainment when I just try to hate watch it. So, thank you so much for letting me talk at you. Do I have 1 minute for questions or no? Oh, hot dog. Oh yeah, we'll go, sorry, I'm going to channel my teacher energy. I'm going to go 1, 2, and then we'll go that way. So, what's my favorite shark? I love the Greenland shark because they can live up to 600 years. And how they figured that out was doing carbon dating on their corneas. So hypothetically, there were sharks that were alive during the time of Shakespeare that are just like swimming around in the cold waters. Yes. Okay, great question. So I'm going to go to the table now. So we'll do 1, 2, 3. Why do I hate dolphins so much? In part because they're charismatic megafauna and they're really popular, which is just kind of like, ugh. But that being said, my darling spouse can attest to, we did a whale watching tour in San Diego, and there were, hundreds of dolphins that were surrounding us, breaching out of the water, and we're actually surfing on the boat, in the water pressure of the boat, because it kind of pushed them forward. And I said out loud, okay, this is pretty fucking magical. So they're just overrated as part of charismatic megafauna and the mammalian bias. So we'll go 1, 2, and then 3. Yeah. 100%. Can't confirm.
So for your question, my answer both times was finding Nemo. Where does that fit?
Oh, great question. So the question was a shout out to the Henry Zoo in Nebraska, and yes, it is. Oh, Omaha. Sorry, Omaha, Nebraska, and yes, it is the best zoo in the world. It is a boring road trip. I did make that road trip. It's worth it. The zoo is that good. So the question was also Finding Nemo. Where does that find? I appreciate that one of the characters named Bruce was named after the shark, the mechanical shark from Jaws, which was named after Spielberg's lawyer. So I love that deep cut. Though Finding Nemo is not the most anatomically correct as far as, oh, here's this coral species that's going to be in the really deep benthic. I'm like, it it's too much pressure for a little clownfish. That's not, but I'm not entirely mad about their depiction of sharks because it's mostly just like, sharks gotta eat. Apex predators. All apex predators gotta eat. So I ain't mad about that. Purple shirt and then along the wall, yeah.
I have a double question. Move on.
All right, fair enough. We're gonna go white shirt and I think there was green shirt, so.
Are there examples, unfortunate examples of sharks being violently targeted or other consequences of the misconceptions?
Oh God, yes. How familiar are y'all with shark finning? So I'll keep it. So essentially, shark fins can be used as an ingredient in certain varietals of soup. I don't know what Asian cuisine it's considered it's considered a fine delicacy. That's the word I'm looking for. The problem with that is that they cut the fins off the shark and then throw them back overboard, and then the shark's drowned because they need water. So it's not the most ethical way to harvest an animal, and overfishing negatively affects that. So that being said, I'm thinking off of Cape Cod specifically that every so often shark attacks in Australia, in Massachusetts, handful of other places, they do happen. And then when they do, everyone kind of loses their GD mind, like the beginning and the scenes from, not beginning, like the community scenes from from Jaws, where the whole community is like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about this? Because in part of that bad PR, they are kind of scary. And again, we're not identifying ourselves with us like we would with other apex predators, like a wolf, for example. Whoever did the PR for orcas, I need you to do that for sharks. I will pay you that money. Yes, so our green shirt friend.
My question was actually your thoughts on orcas.
Oh, my thoughts on orcas. Similar with dolphins, of just like, ugh, really? Why are they getting all this good PR? So I had some interesting feelings when Blackfish came around, but that's also from working from captive animal industry, as far as always go to an American Zoological Association zoo. That is, so that seal of approval means that their primary focus is the benefit of the animal, not our viewing of them. And oh boy, is there a difference between those institutions. Ever gone to a petting zoo and felt icky? Yeah, that's not AZA. That's not AZA. Yes, okay, so we'll do... Sorry, I'm married to him, so I kind of have to take that question. Yes?
What is your favorite question about sharks that no one ever asks you?
Oh, God damn it. I always ask that question of docents at every museum. Okay, so the question was, what is my favorite question about sharks that no one ever asks me? Dermal denticles. No one asks me about their dermal... so dermal denticles is the shape of their scales, which is kind of tooth-like. But here's what's really cool. It actually allows them to slip and move faster in the water. And for one of the Summer Olympics, they actually designed the swimwear based on that, because nature is the best engineer in order to move faster into the water. So when you are petting a shark, it's a thing. When you're going with the grain, they're nice and smooth. But if you go the other way, it can kind of feel like a little bumpy, kind of like a fine grit sandpaper. And even very large species, it can even feel even more grittier, to the point where it may like feel like a callus on your hand. And that's really cool. So. All right.
We're going to take about a 10-minute